Good afternoon and welcome to the most magical scene here at PRIDELANDS. The elephants are all swimming around, and welcome to your live African safari. Well, it's an awesome afternoon out in the African sun. Hey, sorry. It's starting off with elephants all around us. And as you can see, we've got an elephant that's come right up to the vehicle who's just had a mud bath and almost sprayed us in mud. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me today is Sebastian. And that is a very naughty elephant that I like to call Susan. But we are sitting here at PRIDELANDS, and we're right outside the eco-trading camp. There are actually students having a lecture right now, I think about mammals, funny enough. And, well, the best way to, of course, learn is to be surrounded by animals. So you can see the entire camp is literally littered with elephants at the moment. But remember, this is a live safari, so please send through your questions. Remember to hashtag Wild Earth and comment away on the various social media platforms. We'll be very happy to have some chats with you this afternoon. But there's a whole bunch of us out in different locations. If you have been watching, perhaps this is your first time, well, prepare to have your socks blown off. Because first, you're probably going to laugh at all the elephants as they roll around in the mud, as this one does. And if he's not careful, he might slip and fall, which could be quite comical to see. But they're just having the best time right now, which is fantastic to see. But it doesn't seem like the action is over for us here, because it looks like there's some more elephants on their way down to the dam.
Good afternoon and welcome to Djuma Private Game Reserve, everybody. We've got a wonderful brown hooded kingfisher just perched here in the drainage line. Hello, my name is Steve Fogovich, joined by Theo Ardenstyle camera, and excited to have you with us on this afternoon. It's quite warm, so we're going to be sticking to the shade for a little bit, doing a river cruise so that we don't overheat. This bird is doing the same. He's just chilling. Bound down these drainage lines, these brown-hooded kingfishers. Very good eyesight. They sit perched, waiting for movement of an insect before they jump down or plunge down onto it. Very common kingfisher. Stays here all year round. And with all kingfishers, they've got a very long, straight beak, but doesn't necessarily mean that they all hunt fish. These guys, you can find them near water, but for the most part, they are woodland species found in and around the savannah. Okay, so we're going to continue on down this river, see what else we can find, trying to shelter away from the sun.
It is so warm out here on Djuma Game Reserve in South Africa. I'm not too far from Steve, and I'm sitting here with the Nkuhuma Pride. These are our lions that call Djuma home. It's always a pleasure to see them. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to see you, too. My name is Trishala, and I was about to say Theo. No, I've got BK on camera this afternoon. There we go. Thank you, BK. And we are very happy to take you on board for this live safari, and very, very happy that we've already found these lions. Now, there's about 9 cubs in this pride, and some of them are quite old at the moment, even past a 1-year-old. Ridge noses too. And we have a number of lionesses. The main players are Amber Eyes, Purple Eye, Ridge Nose, Chile. We've even got the Nick-eared lioness. We've got the Tatty-eared lioness, the Pale-eyed lioness. And at the moment, everybody is flat, so I can't tell who is who. Sam, you'd like to know how long a male coalition can last for? It can last the lifetime of a male. Now, males have a shorter lifespan than females. That's because of the way that their life goes. They have quite a tough life. And if they manage to survive to adulthood and actually get into a coalition and solidify themselves in a coalition, then that can last for life. Because having to interact and fight with other males to get into coalitions and to take over prides, that can kill a male. So it's a tough life, and most of the time a coalition will last for the lifetime of that animal. The coalition that the Nkuhumas belong to are the Avoca males, and there is one somewhere around here, but like I said, they're all flat at the moment, so it's just a puddle of lions. I can't distinguish anybody. See, there's a youngster there. So they'll be feeling very, very hot. And you'll notice that some of them are on their bellies with their legs raised. And that means that all the thinner skin that is on the underside of their belly can be exposed to the air, so they can lose heat that way and stay cool. Look at this little one trying to get milk. You are too old for this. Well, I'm going to stick around with them. They're not doing much, but they are wonderful to spend time with.
Jumbo Jumbo, hello, and a very good afternoon from the MAASAI Mara of Kenya. And we are having lions just like what Trishula got. And not sure how Trishula's lions are behaving, but as you can tell, they are having what sometimes we could call the afternoon siesta, or just an easy way of spending the afternoon. It's very typical of most lions. My name is David, and with me on camera today is Bungei. Bungei, how are you? And Bungei says the two lionesses there, this means there could be a male hiding somewhere. Now let him show us where that male he think is hiding somewhere near those two girls. Very good. I cannot trust you, Bungei. And this particular pride is called the Mogoro Pride. Mogoro Pride, I'm not counting the male. There's two girls, two sisters there. And the male there just took over this pride from the previous males that were here before. Look at how they're panting because of how hot it is. Remember, we love to hear from you, comments or questions. As usual, if you can, please send them through. And you can do that using, you can tweet #WorldEarth. Or you can also use @FC in the comment section of the YouTube chat channels. For the young ones, kids' questions at worldearth.tv. You can do the same by sending us comments or questions. Now, these two girls here, initially there were three. But now we do not know what happened to the third one. We've been seeing two since last year. The male is very new, and he just took over from the previous males here. Remember, we are coming to you live from the MAASAI Mara. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you can see how warm it is, but I don't think the panting here is because of the warmth. It's just because these two girls have eaten so much. We all know it's during the migration time in the Mara, and that translates to party time. There's lots of food around, and very close to where we are next to the banks of the Mara River, and there was a crossing here earlier today, and I was told late last night, these two lionesses got themselves a wildebeest, which is stuck or stashed somewhere in the grass that you see there, that we call the elephant grass. They might be here sleeping and napping for a very long time. And if you look carefully, you can see the big boy, or the male that is in charge of these girls here, moving one of the paws. You see the girls with the panting. You see, it's not sunny, but it's just, too much in their bellies. We've been thinking that the two girls are pregnant, so it's a combination of, maybe having little bundles of joy in their tummies, and in their uterus, and the bellies are full of some loads of pounds of flesh from the wildebeest that they killed last night. But the wind is pretty good, just blowing there, keeps them cool. Hello, sir. Jumbo Jumbo. You are good looking. Gorgeous. And ladies and gentlemen, remember again, should you have any comments, look at that one mail. Should you have any questions, please send them through, because you come into live and be able to answer your questions, or just, acknowledge your comments in real time. As I said earlier, you can do that using #WorldEarth. And that's on tweet. Up you go, big boy. good looking. Look at the belly of that gentleman there. Now, this male came from a different area. And when he came here, the previous coalition that was here, he pushed them out and he took over, and he came from a coalition that we call the Bila Shaka coalition. There are always 5 males, and he stayed. I don't know where the other 4 went, but currently he is in charge. Very interesting way how they're turning around. Very good. Look at the belly of that girl there. There's a great shot there. I just wish they could all rise up. I'll give them a few more minutes from where I am and see if they'll be more active than they are before I move on.
Good afternoon and welcome everybody to and beyond PHINDA Private Game Reserve. It's a beautiful hot sunny afternoon and we're just sitting here with a herd of zebra and a couple of warthogs. My name is Grant, with you for the first time this afternoon, and behind the camera is Craig, and we are out in the open grasslands looking for that pride of lions again this afternoon. We've been seeing the sub-adult males and the adult lionesses separately, so I thought it would be quite nice if we could come and have a look and see if there's been any changes, if those young males are by themselves still, or if they've managed to link up. But in the meantime, while it's nice and warm, those lions are probably fast asleep. We'll spend some time with these zebras. This young foal is getting closer and closer to some warthogs, but at the moment it's just feeding. It's actually being quite selective. It's really, really close to the ground. It looks like it's picking off the tiniest little shoots of perhaps fresh little grass shoots that are starting to come through. And if you look at that little zebra, it's still got quite a lot of baby fluff. Very, very cute. Wow, Zippy, that is a very interesting question. So, most of the large herbivores, in proportion to the rest of their body, have a relatively small brain. Most of the space in their head is actually occupied by their eyes, and usually a very big nasal cavity. So, yeah, to answer your question, I would say that zebras, in relation to their body size, have quite small brains, but they have incredible eyesight, amazing sense of smell and hearing, and those are all used for detecting danger and ensuring their survival. So they use those as their defensive weapons, as opposed to being able to think, which is obviously the way that we defend ourselves. So yeah, at the moment we're just going to sit with these zebras and wait as the sun dips a little bit, and hopefully find those lions as it gets a bit cooler.
So I'm just doing a little bit of repositioning because we've got one of our rather large elephant bulls. He's probably going to either make his way up where we're sitting, or he might use a different pathway. But out here, the animals always have right of way. Just going to see where he's going to go, but you can see he is enormous. He's not the biggest bull that we occasionally see. There's another male by the name of Ezulwini, and he is huge. He's got really big tusks as well. Kumo, however, hasn't got as big tusks, but in terms of his body size, it doesn't really get too much bigger than that. That's an enormous leadwood tree that he's just walking under. Off he goes. So it's always just good just to give him some space. Not that I'm particularly worried at all. He'd probably walk right next to the car, but I don't want him to feel uncomfortable or change his behavior in any way. And then we've got a peaceful scene for the moment of some elephants just relaxing in the water. And then you always have that one person at a pool party, don't you, that wants to jump on in and splash everybody else, you know, while some are just floating around trying to catch a tan, not trying to get their hair wet. Bet you can all relate if you've got siblings. Now, Ivan, elephants have to drink a fair amount of water, and every single day if they can. Please excuse this elephant. We've actually seen him quite a few times before. He has got a slight limp. And Ivan, I'll get back to your question now. We don't know if it is a deformity from birth, but you can see his right hind leg is significantly, it looks like it's shorter than his left leg. Perhaps it was an injury in his early age that has, something has happened and the tendons have been, I don't know, torn, and it's shortened the leg somehow. I have no idea what's happened to him. I'm just, of course, speculating. But he's fine. He carries on. He does what he needs to do. He actually follows Kumu around. They are big buddies. So, Ivan, let me quickly just answer your question. Apologies. So, elephants need to drink a large amount of water. Anywhere between 120 and 150 liters of water a day will be sufficient for an elephant. But if it's a nice hot day and it is available, then they'll drink whenever they can.
These guys will also drink whenever they can, but they're a little bit less reliant on water. They get a lot of their moisture requirement from the food that they eat, from the blood in their prey, but they will readily drink whenever they can. I was just thinking, I wonder when the last time they've had a drink was. It was probably last night, because during the day, nobody's moved from here. We had them in the morning. So the whole day they haven't drunk, but they certainly will tonight, and they certainly have last night. There's a lot of water sources that are still available, because we had such a brilliant wet season last year that our dams are still looking good. Rosalind, you'd like to know how many of these wonderful animals do we have? So we have 9 cubs plus 7 lionesses, which is 16, plus the 3 evokers, who are not part of the Pride. The Pride is female and their offspring, but the coalition that is in charge of the Pride. Now, when they all get up, it's much easier to see who the females are, and look at all the cubs and judge their ages. The oldest cubs belong to Ridge-Nose, and they were born in June last year. So they're a lot older, and the youngest cubs were born at the end of last year. Now, if they were all very obliging and got up, we could see just what condition they're in. Someone's picking up their head now. a little bit of play. Gotta love some play. I hope I didn't forget anybody. But I think I am correct. These guys are going to be flat as pancakes until, I mean, it's really hot today, so maybe even until 5:30 or so, but I hope that they'll move before that. At least there's a nice breeze. So I parked here looking for a bit of shade for myself, but the lions took most of it. No surprises there, though. Still with these lazy lions, not much is happening. But considering that they spend so many hours of their day asleep, well, not really asleep, they're kind of semi-awake. More like they're resting. Because if something had to suddenly come past them, they would be very, very alert. But they certainly do spend lots of the portion of the day lying up like this. Sometimes they can be fast asleep, it's true, but they don't actually have what we call REM sleep or deep sleep as much as you would think, considering how flat they can be throughout the day.
Welcome back this afternoon to Masai Mara, and look what we have here. Another very beautiful antelope and a resident of the Masai Mara. Good afternoon. My name is Isaac, and on camera I have Big James. This afternoon we're staying by the marsh, see what we can find for you. There is quite a lot of different antelopes, and I'm going to share them with you. So over here I have the first one. That's the Defasa waterback. This is an antelope found in marshy area. Antelope native to Africa, from sub-Saharan Africa all the way to Botswana. It's very common to find young ones amongst females because it means this is a breeding herd. There is a male or a dominant male somewhere, but he's not present on the frame there. I actually haven't seen him, but definitely he is around. Look at that guy. He lost his tail. Usually that happens either when the hyena is trying to get them, or a lion, and they rip off the tail. Survival, losing a tail, so they'd rather survive and lose a bit of tail. So she might have lost the tail from a lion. Here you can tell it's a breeding herd because you can tell there is different sizes. There is different sizes of them. Gestation period is around 9 months for these guys, and they give birth every about 2 years.
Well, that's very good and very interesting to hear, Isaac. And what I thought to do is just to change the position of the vehicle and face the Mara River. And by so doing, I have seen all those reptiles that you see there that look like part of the ground or part of the soil on the bank of the Mara River. Now, all those reptiles that look like logs or rocks are what we call the Nile crocodiles. I'm trying to count how many they are there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, it's just so many. Now, this particular point, there was a crossing that was going on, and I can tell you, we saw one baby wildebeest that was brought down by these crockies early this morning, and that's why I'm sure they're still there, and they're very, very full. Typical for crocodiles to take as much sun as they can the better part of the day. We've found out that crocodiles do not do very well when it comes to digestion, and they will need a lot of solar energy to help them break down what they eat. Apparently, they do not chew the meat they eat. They cut it in big chunks, big steaks, fillet steaks right through the bellies. And by getting so much sunshine at night, the digestion takes place slowly, albeit they may not have the enzymes, and the digestion will take place at night, albeit very slowly. Now, one side we have dangerous animals, the reptiles, the crocs, and on the other side we have the lions. Musha, you're wondering if crocodiles have a set breeding season. Musha will say no. Crocodiles will mate anytime, will lay eggs anytime, will incubate them anytime, and after about 9 days, that's when those eggs, once they're buried, on the riverbank in some deep hole in the sand, that's when they hatch out baby crocodiles. So they do not have a particular season like, say, the wildebeest. There is certain animals, Musha, we know, like wildebeest have a particular breeding season. Small antelopes like the impalas have a particular breeding season, but reptiles like these, or like most of them, snakes, chameleons, they do not have any particular breeding season. So you could see a group of crocs like these, see youngsters, you go to another group, some youngsters, others big, others small, indicating that they do not have a particular pattern for breeding. Well, I think I've done pretty well by the river, seeing lions on one side, crocs on one side. I think it's high time I go look for something else.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to PHINDA Game Reserve. We've managed to find 2 white rhinos this afternoon, and they're just down in a dried up waterhole, feeding on some very green looking grass just along the edges. And if you look at that one in the frame at the moment, you'll be able to notice that the horn is, the horns are starting to grow back. The typical rate of regrowth of rhino horns is more or less 20 centimeters a year. And on PHINDA, as I'm sure some of you know, but for those who don't know, we have dehorned all of the rhinos. So fairly soon, that it looks like a young bull will need to be dehorned again. Thanks for the question there, Tim. So they have a few very similar characteristics. They are both large pachyderms, so thick-skinned large mammals. They are both grey in colour, despite the names of being black and white rhinos. But they also have a number of characteristics that make them quite different to one another. So these 2 white rhinos, as we can see right now, they're busy grazing. So they've got a very flat and wide mouth, and they obviously prefer to feed on grass. The flat mouth is suitable for grazing, and the black rhino is the opposite. It's got a hooked lip, and it uses the hooked lip for wrapping its lip around branches and stripping the branches of its leaves. And so they feed on leaves and twigs. The white rhino feeds on grass. So we're going to sit here with these rhinos a little bit longer and see what they get up to.
And it's so wonderful to be able to see rhinos and doing so well. And also being able to show them to you so that you can see an animal that's becoming rarer and rarer. And it's true for lions as well. Fierce, large predators, but they're also in decline. And unfortunately, this seems to be the story for all the animals we see out here. Apart from the impala, unfortunately. But they too need to be protected because they are important to animals like this. And the more we can learn about them and appreciate them, the better it is for all the species. Love their whiskers there. Long and stiff. An extra tactile sense. Just beautiful animals. Lovely. Well, all you'll be able to hear is the wind and the rustling leaves, the gorgeous sound of the bush in this very dry time. But I think we're almost over the hump. The bush will be greening itself very, very soon. Listen. It's like the trees are talking to us with one half kind of growl that just came from one of the lions as well. There's a little bit of movement, a little kind of stretch here and there. But that is about it. The breeze has picked up, so that's going to cool us down. Oh, I saw a little one move and then it didn't. That's how lions go. They move and you think they're going to go somewhere and then they go 1 meter and then they sit down again. Now I want them of course I want them to get up, we all do. But there were 4 sub-adult females, which would actually bring our total of females in here to 8. But I haven't seen that sub-adult female in a long, long time. But I do remember at one point she came back to the Pride, and then she left again, and then came back. Rachel, you're 12 years old. You'd like to know how many teeth lion have. Lion have 30 teeth, like all cats. They have incisors. Those are the front teeth, the ones you'd use to bite a carrot. And the ones that you see in bunny rabbits. And then they have canines. The ones that they use that are very sharp, that can pierce the skin of prey. Oh, look at that. Very comfy position. And then they have modified premolars and molars. So those are the teeth at the back of your mouth that you'd use to chew. And one of the sets on either side is modified. That means it's changed a little bit to be extra sharp because they rub against each other, so they keep sharpening each other. And we call those carnassials. And they're at the back of the mouth. That's what they'd use to shear meat off bones And they're very, very sharp. Oh, somebody's shy. Not anymore. Well, like I said, I only think they'll get moving around 5:30 or so. I definitely hope they will before that. But I suspect that will be it, if not actually a little bit later, considering how warm it is and the sun is starting to set later and later. And they definitely gonna need a meal because they didn't get one last night. There've been buffalo around and there's still buffalo on the property. And the pride is quite large now. So they need to be able to feed all those mouths. Oh. A little bit of movement. A twitch here and there, a head roll, but that is it.
Well, good luck, Trish, on the Lions getting up and doing something. It is a nice warm afternoon. There's enough wind, though, to be able to encourage them to do something, but I don't know if they will. So anyway, we have moved on to Chitwa, and apologies for the shadow over the track. We found a lovely little track here in the sand, and you might think to yourself, what on earth is he looking at? And clearly, this is the track we're looking at over here. Can you see that there? No. Okay, so there's a pad, the back. There's 3 lobes, and there it is there. And there's a toe, 1, 2, 3, and then the 4th toe is there. It's not very clear. Now, you might think to yourself, what on earth is that? Now, you can kind of confuse yourself sometimes, so use some form of measurement. Okay, so if I take this and I measure the back, and I measure the front, I'm going to put my knife there. My knife is 10 centimeters. Okay, so that is a 10 centimeter track. Now, it's not a very big leopard track. It is a leopard, by the way, but it is a male track, but not the biggest male I've seen, which means it's probably SABI and her cubs, because there's a female track just over here. So this is probably her boy. Now, her boy's got, obviously he's a boy, and the boys have got bigger feet. And this is just touching the side. So this is probably his back foot. But he was walking here. Here's another track over here. It's not very clear. It's a lot bigger. If I show you that one, you'll be able to see that that is clearly 10 centimeters. And the side toes, the back pad, the side toes are far wider than the back of the foot. That's a very clear indication of a male. Males are much bigger, much heavier, much stronger, and so their shoulders and front feet, for that matter, the feet are broader than that of a female. A female's more delicate and more elegant and a bit more narrow. So I'm trying to get hold of the guys from Chit to see if they managed to find these leopards this morning, but no luck so far. So we're just going to move around a bit and see if we can figure out where they're gone. There's definitely a male and a female track here. Whether it's SABI's cubs or not is very hard for me to tell you.
Right, welcome back to a beautiful Pridelands, where the elephants have now moved away from Ndlovu Dam, and I think they're going to go and search for a new spot to do some feeding. But they're moving through this really beautiful open area, and the reason why I love it so much is because of all the fallen knob thorns and leadwood trees that are sort of just scattered around here. Now, most of these have been pushed over and destroyed, unfortunately, by the elephants, but it's created still, I suppose, lots of different homes for other animals like the dwarf mongoose and slender mongoose and squirrels and a variety of invertebrates and reptiles and things. So it just feels like you're not in South Africa Especially when you're facing the other way, it looks like a scene from Botswana. But I do love it when they come through here. It also, gives you a good indication of how big these animals are, because some of these trees are enormous. They're probably standing at maybe 15 meters high, 20 meters high. Now, B, if you go towards an elephant's shoulder height, you're probably looking at about 2.5 meters or so, maybe just a bit more than that. Maybe a really big bull, about a bit more than that. But if we can find a nice tree, we can do that for you, where they've been rubbing up against it after a mud bath, because then they'll leave a splash of, not a splash, a smear of mud on the trunk of the tree, and then we can go and have a look. And I can show you, and I can give you my height, and you can just see how big they actually get. There's 2 boys at the back, look at them, not very happy with one another. They're youngsters, though, just having a tussle, but it looked like it was getting quite serious. They were pushing each other quite far away, but are a little bit, I suppose, hot-mood, because I'm pretty sure that one of the cows here is in estrus, so they're getting quite excited. There you can see them at it again. And they will do this. You can see, look at that. Lots of grumbling as well. You might even hear their tusks as they clash. So you can clearly see how easily they can break their tusks too. Those are 2 very, very big animals having a push and shoving competition.
Well, it's interesting to see elephants pushing and doing a bit of shovels there, pushing each other. We got one mammal here that's not pushing anybody and is just enjoying her space in the water. Look at her, and this is a hippopotamus, and not in the river. We are quite a distance from the Mara River, and in the Mara we got so many places where you'll get just water either collecting from the rain, but this one comes from a particular spring, and the spring drains in the Mara, and you'll get once in a while. We have even seen crocodiles here. I think is a lone male, and remember, we are coming to you live from the MAASAI Mara of Kenya. Nothing out of the ordinary to see a lone male, and a lone hippo. My guess is this could be a male, because the females are very social and they tend to be together. And my guess would be this one has been thrown out of the group that they are supposed to be in, and go live your life, go get your space, go get your territory, and maybe it's from here where he's weighing his options. Does he go start his own life? Does he join, another group? But once in a while, you'll get some, dominant males accommodating single males like this just for some time, but not for breeding purposes. But he may, go and join them. You look at him, he's just moving around, turning his head. To me, he doesn't look very comfortable where he is. Because when you see the other hippos in water, in a big group, they're always comfortable, breathing once in a while. But him, he looks like a little bit nervous. We got a small chick there. Remember, we are coming to you live from the MAASAI Mara, and my name is David. And from the hippo, now we have moved to a lapwing, and this is a chick of a spar-winged lapwing. Every time I swing by this place, I love to stop here and look at how they're feeding in the water, chasing all the insects they could catch. So either she or he, and either she got a brother or he got a brother or a sister, because the two of them, and of the two, one is more playful or one is more always active than the other. And that is the mother right there. I hope you can hear her calling. So one chick come home, stay there. It's a bit cold, big wings, and you can see how her feathers blend in with the ground there. Now we'll just leave her to make sure maybe she also brings the other chick on board and keep them warm and give them their space for the afternoon.
Perfect timing. Welcome back to and Beyond PHINDA. If you've just joined us, we were sitting with two white rhinos, and while we were sitting there quietly just observing them grazing, we heard this herd of impalas start alarm calling. So we came around as quickly as we could to see what they were alarming about. And we've had a very thorough look around, but we haven't been able to find anything, and it looks as though they've relaxed a little bit. They've gone back to feeding and grooming themselves and going about their daily business. So it seems as though the threat has either passed, or perhaps there was no threat at all. And sometimes they do see a bush moving in a strange way, especially today. It's quite windy, so it is possible that something caught their attention that looked like a predator or a threat to them, and one of them would have started to alarm call, and the rest would have picked up their heads and looked in the direction of the one that was alarm calling it was looking in. And often the herd mentality leads them to do what others are doing. Sarah, that's a good question. So impalas are extremely athletic antelope, and they are one of the fastest out in the African bush, and they most certainly can leap very high and very far if they need to, especially while they're running away from a predator. Often, I mean, if you look at the vegetation that they're in now, imagine if something had to run, burst out of the bushes and try to chase one of them. There's quite a lot of bush in the way, fallen over trees, and so they have to duck, dip, dive and dodge as many obstacles as they need to get away, and often leaping pretty high to get over an obstacle is their only option. So they certainly can jump very high, but only if need be. I have seen, though, especially after a very cold or a wet night, they would, almost in excitement and as if to warm up, they would chase each other around and jump and do what's called pronking, which is a type of display where they jump and sort of arch their back. If for those of you that have seen a springbok often do the pronk. Impalas are capable of doing the same thing, which is, I suppose, a leap, Sarah. So we're going to go back and have a look if those rhinos are still around, and if not, continue and see if we can maybe find those lions.
Is that Sorry, everybody. It seems as though I constantly have audio issues, so I'm going to stand on the car.
No. Yeah, she's going to sort it out now.
Better?
Yes.
Sorry, everybody. I don't know why these things happen. But anyways, so if you look at this branch over here on a tree, that's about 2.5 meters high. And a female elephant could quite easily come through and scratch on that. If you look very carefully just on the underside, there's actually some mud there. But that's just a female elephant. The bulls get much, much, much bigger. And I don't even know if I'll be able to show you, but there is another branch just that sort of curves just in front of me, up and over here. And this is probably about 3 meters or so at height. And there is also some mud just on the underside. So an exceptionally large elephant bull would be able to sort of scratch around there. And you know, you get these giants that are sometimes weighing over 7 tons, and they could probably get to maybe over 3.5 meters even, particularly tall. And maybe you were watching yesterday afternoon, we had an elephant bull, Kumo, who we just saw at the dam. He stretched all the way up, literally to right above Sebastian's head, and reached on these overhanging branches, which was really, really cool. And that's, of course, with his trunk. That he was able to do that. So those branches right up there, even if I were to stand on the back of the vehicle, I still would not be able to reach them. I actually don't even think if I sat on Sebastian's shoulders, if he was standing up on the back of the car, that I could reach that. So they don't get quite as tall as giraffe, but they definitely do get to a fair height. So it's always really amazing when you see the elephant bulls, and maybe in the next few days we'll be able to see the elephant always come to this tree, and then you can just really see how tall they kind of are. I'm not short, but I'm not particularly tall, but I definitely do get dwarfed by the elephants. But they're moving all around us, just in the distance. I think we'll try and catch up with them and have another look.
These guys are also tall. Kind of, at about shoulder height. They're about 1.2 meters tall. Males, females a little shorter, about 1 to 1.1 meters. Luckily for them, the things they want to eat are not at the tops of trees. So height is not of a great benefit to them. Sophie, you say so many lazy lions today? Certainly, a little lion puddle. If it weren't this warm, I'd say it's a cuddle puddle. But they're not cuddling as much as you would see when it's really nice and cold in the mornings, and we happen to find the pride, and they've eaten and they're not on the move. You find them this really nice little lion bundle. Some on top of others, and it's just too cute. You get the occasional tail lifting up. An ear twitch, a paw flinch, a tail swinging. That is the extent of the action with our lions today. Janice, you'd like to know why they're breathing rapidly, even though they're sleeping. It's because they're really, really hot. Now, actually, they're not breathing that fast. You'll see it sometimes, but they're actually not breathing very fast at all compared to how they can when they've eaten a lot. This is a very good kind of beat for them, a good rhythm, and it isn't fast for them. Now, when they've eaten a lot, they have digestion taking place, which increases their metabolic heat, and then they get warmer, and then they want to or they'll need to breathe more heavily, and that's why you'll see them with their heart beating quite quickly. But at the moment, though they're still very warm and they do need to pump blood around themselves very quickly, it's still nothing compared to what they normally do, look like when they've been eating. Anyway, guys, it's been a fantastic day, and do remember that you can go online and find us and join us. But for now, bye-bye. Hello, everybody. Look at that. Some action for you all. Oh, very cute, though. Playing with some combretum. Yeah, why not when all your other friends are busy sleeping? Why not play with a branch? And then pass out too. Now our lovely lions here are definitely going to stay put like this for at least another hour. So I think we might drive around a little bit and see what else is around. And we'll come right back here. There should be another avoca male somewhere in this area. Apparently he was chased from Little Gowrie by an elephant yesterday. So perhaps we can find him. If we don't find him, he definitely will find the pride later tonight when we come back. Hopefully we'll be able to hear them roar as well. Ian, you'd like to know what makes the lions twitch their ears and tails and things like that? It's a muscle, gosh, Trishana, that just kind of just fell out of my mouth. It's a muscle reflex. So it's not a conscious movement. It's kind of like when, not even like when you get an itch. Like when you get a sudden, like a sleep twitch. Kind of like a sleep twitch. And that you are not, you have no control over the movement. It's just something that happens automatically. Obviously, they have receptors all over their bodies, and when they're used to getting flies in certain parts of the body, those receptors are particularly used to the feeling of a fly, and it knows how to react to it, or the body knows how to react to it to get rid of it, and then this twitch develops. And it's a completely automatic reflex, and it's developed and evolved because it works. Anyway, I am going to leave them just for a little bit and have a peruse around this area and see what else the bush has to offer.
Welcome back to PHINDA Private Game Reserve. We've come back to the waterhole, well, dry waterhole, where these two rhinos have been grazing. And the one just lay down for a couple of minutes to rest. But it seems as though they're now up and feeding again and moving off into the sunset. I've had a closer look, and it looks as though they are two bulls, so two male rhinos, which is quite interesting. White rhinos, going back to the question earlier, I think it was from Tim, the white rhinos are also quite a bit more social animals than the black rhino. The black rhino is extremely solitary, and it's very rare to see them in more than one of them at a time. But white rhino, on the other hand, you can see them in large groups, sometimes up to 12 or 14 rhinos all together. And these two being bulls, they will be in competition with one another, but it does look as though one is a little bit smaller than the other, and it seems as though this one at the back, or closer to us, the one closer to us is a more submissive and younger bull, and he seems to be following the larger bull, and he would have to be submissive to be tolerated by that large bull. Perhaps he's just learning, or he's just following that big bull to try and learn the surrounding areas, to try and see where there are other rhinos that have established territories. Maybe see if he can find himself a piece of land to call his own. Thank you, Arno, for the question. So there's a range with white rhinos. The bulls get quite a bit larger than the cows. The range for white rhinos is between 1,800 and 2,700 kilograms, so 1.8 to 2.7 tons. So an adult, fully grown white rhino bull, he could push even up to 3 tons. That's a very large individual. But more commonly, 2.5 tons for a big bull, and for a large cow, somewhere between 1.8 and 2.2 tons, I would say. Black rhinos are a little bit smaller, ranging between about 800 kilograms and 1.4 kilograms. And the same applies, so the bulls being quite a lot larger than the cows. So yeah, they are really, really big animals, and it's always deceptive when you see them from a car, or when you see footage of them or watch a documentary of them. It's quite hard to gauge, or difficult to gauge, the actual size of the animal. The best way is to get eye level with them and see them and compare them yourself with your surroundings. Basically, to see them on foot is when you get a real idea of how big they are. So as these rhinos move off into the grassland, we're gonna leave them be, and we'll continue into the area where the lions were seen this morning, and see if we can maybe try and find them again.
Well, I've decided to stick with the lions for a little bit longer. But since we haven't spent much time with them, we might as well. Especially the sun is kind of dipping and getting a bit softer, which means that we can maybe move around and get another angle. Because you see, we also have to be in some shade. But now that there's less harsh sun, maybe we can move for the next segment. Now I'll let you experience what I'm experiencing as we go along and watch the lions in silence very carefully. You will be hypnotized and you will get very, very sleepy So let's start over at the lion at the end. And BK will very smoothly take you through all of these lions until you are absolutely hypnotized. And you think that you are with me in this very vehicle, not just watching. Carrie, you say a beautiful pride. Carrie, you should be hypnotized by now. How are you still speaking? But they are a beautiful pride. They have gorgeous fawn coats. And I must say that at least the cubs that I managed to see, because everyone is absolutely flat, the cubs I managed to see were looking really good. The last time I saw them, they were, still a little bit patchy. But they're looking really good, and I'm very glad. Oh, that was quite cute. They're great at rolling over, and nobody even has to teach them. I like to enjoy a nice, they're not doing anything, and it's sometimes a nice time to check yourself and realize that you're sitting with a pride of lions, and we get to share this with all of you, and really you're sitting with this pride of lions too. And it's just a nice moment. I can hear some crickets stridulating just a little bit. Can you imagine being an ancient human walking in these areas? You would never, ever know that these lions were here. They blend in so well, and they're so flat, but they would know if you were. It's just an interesting thought.
Welcome back once again to and beyond PHINDA Private Game Reserve. We've come across a group of vultures that have found a nice, a sandy spot next to a little pan of water, and the one that you can see in the screen right in the middle, that really, really big one, is one that we don't get to see too often here on PHINDA. And that is a lappet-faced vulture. The rest, all the smaller ones are... Oh, do you see some squabbling there? The rest are all white-backed vultures. And if you look on the ground around them, you'll see there's lots of little feathers. And those are all down feathers from these vultures. So what they come and do here, next to this little pan, is they come and dust bath, which is something that a lot of birds do to get rid of parasites. And they do another thing called anting, which they would most definitely do in this area as well. And that is just to lie in an open area and open and spread out their wings and let the ants come onto their body and pick off old dry skin and basically clean out their feathers. And for now, that's just what they've been doing. So Steve Jones, that's a great question. Thank you. Vultures have actually got some of the largest wingspans. And if we look in our bird guide, the lappet-faced vulture is quite a lot bigger than the white-backed vulture. So it's definitely got a much bigger wingspan. But I know off the top of my head that it is definitely close to 2 meters. I'm just having a quick look in my book. Lappet-faced vulture's wingspan is 2.8 meters, which is pretty impressive. Can you imagine wings that are 3 meters long? And so an area like this is ideal for them to come and rest, especially if they want to get onto the ground and do some dust bathing or anting, because what vultures require in order to take off again is an almost like a runway. Just like an aeroplane, they require quite a bit of space to build up some speed and momentum and flap their wings as they run, and will eventually manage to take off. So they need a clear open area in order to do that. The white-backed vulture's wingspan is 2.2 meters. So I was close. I was in the ballpark. I said 2 meters. That's 2.2 and 2.8. Some of the smaller vultures, like the hooded vulture, there we go. And another. Perfect example of the running takeoff. There we go, another one. If you look on right in the middle of the group of vultures, there's one actually lying down. And it's quite tough to see, but it's actually got its wings a little bit spread out. That one at the back that's looking at us. This is just turned sideways now. So it's busy practicing that anting or dust bathing. Forgive me if the name is incorrect, but I think it was like or life. The lappet-faced vulture is 6.7 kilograms, and the white-backed vulture is 5.5 kilograms. So they are pretty large birds, and that is the reason why they require that runway to get themselves off the ground. You also wouldn't see vultures up in the sky on a very overcast and still day, because in order to fly, they actually don't rely on flapping their wings, which is quite interesting. If you think about a bird not flapping its wings in order to fly, they use thermals, which are air currents that are caused by the sun heating up the ground. And when the sun heats up the ground, the warm air from the ground level rises and spirals, and you might see vultures using those thermals to ride up high into the sky. And then what they do is they glide and they cover huge distances while they're looking down and scanning for any potential food. If it is not a clear day and there's no sun and it doesn't warm up, they would rely on wind. So they would need wind to, almost like a kite, they would angle their wings in such a way that they would get uplift by that wind and get themselves some height, and then they would do their usual gliding in order to try and spot potential food or carcasses, maybe find the predators, see if they can investigate if there's something there. So Sassy Cassie is asking if vultures only eat carcasses, what about fruits? And that's a really, really interesting question. And I love to hear things like that, especially from guests, because it reminds you just about how you only learn things from being out in the bush, and we think and we take a lot for granted, but it's a great question. I mean, vultures, as we know, they only eat carcasses. They are strictly carnivorous. They eat dead and rotten meat only. They do not eat fruit. There are a number of frugivorous birds or bird species, but vultures are certainly not one of them. Yeah, so these vultures might have come from their patrols today during the day to come and rest. Perhaps they have full crops, or they didn't manage to find any food today. So what we're going to do is we're going to go and see if we can try and find those lions, and hopefully as it cools down they get a bit more active.
Here are some lions. Oh, at least somebody's being cute now. There's even somebody behind this little boy that's being cute. Oh, look at you. I think it's cooled quite nicely, so maybe my guess of them only moving around 5:30 will change. I think maybe 5 o'clock. As soon as I said that, I thought I'm being hopeful. Oh, look at that handsome boy. I think this is one of Ridge Nose's too, because I remember the last time I saw them, they started to get this beard, the beginnings of a mane, looking quite handsome. Oh, there's a couple yawns this side, so maybe there'll be some movement soon. Grey Skull, you'd like to know what the quietest period in terms of hunting is for a lion? There isn't really a quiet period. Of course, if their resources are bad and herd animals who would be following good vegetation and water sources, if they start to move out of their territories, which is very unlikely in an area like this, you're always going to have herbivores around, then they would possibly go through a dip. Then also when you think about drought doesn't just affect those animals that rely heavily on water, but those animals become really frail and their condition deteriorates a lot, and then a lion goes and hunts it. And then they're having a meal that is not as nutritious as you would expect. You think, oh, it's a nyala. But what the nyala eats and what the nyala drinks is what keeps up its specific vitamins and nutrients. And if there's a drought and those specific nutrients, those specific amino acids can't be created, and maybe this resulted in the death of the nyala or whichever other herbivore, the lion then eats that and is not getting the type of nutrients that its body expects from that type of animal. And that over a prolonged period means that a lion or any other predator is at risk of malnutrition and death as well, even though they'll be eating correctly. There are quite a few amino acids and some kind of semi-essential ones that cats can't produce on their own. And they need to get that from the meat that they eat. And if they don't have that, then they lack those amino acids completely, and they can have things like hair loss, deterioration in vision, even kind of shakes and seizure type things. So it's not pretty. And that's the only really type of dip that they would get in finding prey.
No problem. I'm just inside of.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Chitwa once again. We've got a white-back or griffin vulture up in a beautiful knobthorn tree. My name is Steve. Hello, everybody. Joined by Theo Alistair camera. Excited to have you with us. Now, we've been working those tracks, and leopard tracks with the 3 went to the dam and went back again. And unfortunately, those 3 leopards have gone a little bit too far east, over to Wessels Katline, or I'm not sure what it's called, but not far from where we had Sabuyi and cubs last time I was here, with that impala kill in the tree. Just past that and in a bit, I'm afraid. It goes onto a property we aren't able to traverse at the moment. So we've given the update to others in the area, and they can go and follow up. Those tracks were fresh, though. They were from some time today. Obviously very thirsty. They walked all the way to the dam to have a drink, and then walked all the way back. But we have got a whiteback vulture sitting up in a beautiful knobthorn tree with all the blossoms out. Hello, Laseko, 10 years old. There is a collective name for a group of vultures called a kettle of vultures, but I prefer to use the word vortex. Because when you see a whole lot of vultures moving in the sky, they're spiraling up in a vortex. And but someone has called it a kettle. But I think a V for vultures, vortex, works quite well. But that's just me. So I suppose you did ask what I call them. I like to call them a vortex. Alarm calls of birds just behind me here. I'm just having a little listen. It's not very aggressive alarm calls. Guinea fowls contact calling each other. It's important to listen out, everybody. It's impossible to see it all. Our ears get very well tuned to the bush. The vultures have got incredible eyesight, but we don't have the same capability or capacity. Someone has come up with the suggestion that vultures can read a newspaper from a kilometre away. How on earth they figured that out? I didn't even know vultures could read. Guinea fowl are being very vocal behind us, but it's nothing to be too concerned about right now. Randy, the whiteback vulture is by far the most common, I think, throughout southern Africa. Up in the Mara, you get lots of Rupel's vultures. Down here, you also get a few hooded. The white-headed is very uncommon to see. The Cape and the lappet-faced are actually endangered. Okay, these guinea fowl are making more noise. I'm just going to go and have a look just around the corner here in this drainage, because they are making the kind of noise that often can indicate indicates something of predatory nature, but they're also being quite deceptive of late, our guinea fowl. Get them in the river. In front of us there. Let's listen to him cackle.
That must be interesting. A cackling vulture. I do like vultures myself. These guys see vultures very often. Nearly always at a carcass that they are at. They were chatting about their nutrition or their diet a little bit. And I said to you, there's several components of a healthy diet for cats, or obligate carnivores, particularly cats, that they cannot produce, or they produce very low levels of. One or two of the big ones is taurine and arginine. These are both amino acids. And arginine is responsible for metabolism, and if there's an arginine deficiency in an animal, they can get sick very quickly and start to become anorexic, lose condition. And in humans, it's actually associated with ammonia building up in your body. I'm not sure if it has been linked to the same in cats, but having an arginine deficiency for a human results in that. As for, there's also retinol, that's vitamin A basically, that they will lack. And the other big one is taurine. Taurine's associated with healthy eyes, the production of bile. And they can only get these things. And niacin they also produce very little of. They also break down arginine very quickly. So they constantly need to get this array of amino acids. Sorry, I'm just kind of rattling them off as I remember them. This is something I read quite a long time ago. But if they don't get these from their meat, which is pretty much exclusively, you're going to find these things in meat. You're not going to find these things in vegetation. So if they don't get that, or the animal that they're eating is nutrient poor in those things, the retinol, the niacin, the arginine, the taurine, if they're nutrient deficient in those things, they will suffer, and you won't even realize it because they'll still be eating. That's why when you think of obligate carnivores, we say obligate because they have no other option but to eat the meat, because their bodies cannot produce what they need in order to survive. A bit of movement there, half playing. Tracy, you'd like to know if lion cubs have fur when they are born? They do. They have fur when they are born. It's not particularly pretty looking or thick. And obviously it's a little bit wet, but they certainly do have fur. No, you weren't born like a little hamster, were you? No. Their eyes, of course, are not open when they're born, and they're very reliant on there. Felix, you'd like to know how much a lioness eats when she's pregnant. I don't know how much she eats when she's pregnant. I know that if she really had to push herself and totally eat everything she could eat about 20 kgs of meat in one go. The males can even eat more than that, which is quite ridiculous considering that the males only weighs about 200 kgs, give or take, and he can eat, 10% of that, if not more, actually. Some sources quote up to 40 kgs. I mean, these are generally reliable sources. But when she is pregnant specifically, I'm not sure how much she eats or whether there's a big difference in how much she eats as well. Lions are not pregnant for very long. Their gestation is about 110 days or so. And that's important because the shorter period of time you have this thing growing inside of you and therefore hindering how much you can participate in hunts, or how well you can participate in hunts rather, because pregnant females will participate in hunts, but how well they can and whether they feel full of energy and things like that is dependent on this litter growing inside of her. And so this shortest gestation of about 3 months means that it's for a very short time that she has to deal with something basically sucking energy from her when she could probably use it for something else. But it's the meaning of life to reproduce, so she says it's okay. I shall keep you all healthy and give my energy to you in my litter, but I'm only going to do it for 110 days. It's such an amazing investment to carry a young inside of you. So here we have 110 days, right? So this cub comes out and it is altricial, which means that it's helpless, basically. Very, very helpless. So they're born in a den. And then you get, so this is what a body is adapted to doing. That's as much energy and nutrition it can invest in growing that cub, and this has worked for this species. Then you get something like an elephant, where you have a gestation period of almost 2 years, 22 months. And how does the body even cope with that? Because there's so much that you have to give to growing an elephant inside of you. So in mammals, there's an area in the womb, actually the end of the ovaries, called the corpus luteum. And that's where a lot of the production or signals for production of blood vessels and anything that really has to do with the fetus is designated from that little kind of powerhouse. And elephants have multiple of those, where in humans we just have, just at the site of where that egg left the ovary, that's where it grows, we just have that one. Elephants have multiple of these so that they can sustain their pregnancy. Same with a cat or a lion. In this instance, they just have the one, so they can only sustain a pregnancy for so long. Very, very interesting stuff. I was ranting a little bit there, or going on a roll, but I hope you understood.
Wild Earth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the Wild Earth family.
Welcome back to Chitwa. We've got our resident waterbuck family. A moment ago, the two wildebeest boys we had in the same area were here, and they're going to force us to move now as they go behind the bump. Quite a common sight here at Chitwa is some waterbuck. Here we go, wildebeest are making it through the gap. The great migration. I'm only joking, everybody, it's only two bulls. Maybe they'll play with each other like they did last time, which was quite fun, actually, witnessing them going through all their antics. Sorry about the radio. You got this here? Oh. Something has spooked them all, and Theo says he can see a warthog running. Sometimes, because warthogs are so small to the ground, that the behavior kind of makes these herbivore animals feel like there's a lion or a leopard doing something. Deka, it's the same, small and skulking in a way, and you'll often find these animals become very alert. The movement of a warthog. It pays to be careful. If you get eaten alive, or you see your friend getting eaten alive, be careful of things moving on, won't you? Oh, our waterbuck are coming back. There we go. Photoshop. Photobomb from the right. Hello. Such wonderful light on them, isn't it? Wildebeest could come out. They were in the light before. They're all looking at the movement of the warthog left behind. Such pretty animals, aren't they? You, so pretty. You'd think so. Vitamin D from the sun? I'm really not certain, though. There you saw the warthogs just run past. Off they went. Just here, in front of this bush, Theo, there's two water thickneys on the ground, just next to that elephant poo. One is standing, the other one is sitting. I wonder if they've got a nest. Hello. Very camouflaged birds. I only saw them because the one started moving a bit. They might be incubating. Just be a little shallow scrape in the ground. If they are incubating, it's two very proud parents. They're waiting for the hatchlings. I'll just double check when the dates are usually for their breeding. End of the dry season. Peaking in October. It's very possible. Anywhere from 1 to 3 eggs they could be there. We'll have to come investigate another time to see if we do indeed have a pair of proud parents.
Sitting very pretty here, although I do predict movement very, very quickly, or very soon rather. But I've changed my mind very quickly. I see a lot more twitching, a little more grooming, although nothing serious just yet. Speaking of, I think you were chatting about vitamin D deficiency, vitamin D synthesization with Steve. And interestingly, I don't think cats can actually synthesize vitamin D in their skins the way that we do. And they have to get it from their diet. Another one of those things that we're chatting about that is important in terms of what they eat. They have to have healthy prey. Because if they don't have healthy prey, then they become unhealthy because they rely so much on the nutrients of what they're eating. They can't just be like, oh, today I need some spinach, some green leaves in my life. Or maybe I need some vitamin C and I'm going to have some marulas. They can't make those decisions. They have to have meat because it's exactly what their body needs. Stuck in bed. You'd like to know how well developed the cubs are at birth? Not very well developed is probably the right answer. They're obviously furry. They are quite tiny. They're about 600 grams to a kg and a half. So they're quite tiny. Their eyes are closed. They're unstable. So they're very, very vulnerable. Still bigger than a leopard cub, for obvious reasons. They're bigger animals. But ultimately, just as vulnerable as any predator's cub. In fact, the most well-developed of the predator's cubs would be hyena cubs. They're also tiny when they're born, but they have incisors and canines, and they're already basically coming out kicking and screaming and fighting with whichever other sibling has come along. And it's quite interesting that they develop like that, because we said the gestation period of lions are about 110 days. Hyenas is around the same time, but even as early as 90 days. Look at this cutie pie. Oh, that is a pose. That is a pose. Oh, so sweet. Obviously, she's just getting an itch, but it makes us ooh and ah. Standing by.
Good afternoon, Elvis. I'd like to can I get a standby or come and join?
You're welcome to join the space for two. You can come to the junction of Zoe's and Rebecca's and then continue to head south on Rebecca's, and I'll hear your vehicle and I'll give you a signal.
Okay, I'm coming on car main, so I'm going to be heading north. Thanks.
Copy, then just approach the junction with Zoe's and I will hear your vehicle. We've had a lonely party here at the sighting, which is quite nice because we just kind of get to sit and enjoy. But because of the time of day now, potentially lions coming out and moving about. I'm just going to grab that again from you, please, Londeka. Max, you'd like to know when a newborn lions start chuffing? Lions don't chuff. Leopards do it. It's a friendly vocalization. It's to say that I see you, I know you, and I'm making contact with you. You'll see it often between related individuals. You'll see it between cubs and mums, and between cubs themselves. But I haven't heard lions chuff. They will vocalize in squeals and things like that, as all young do, but they don't chuff. Wow, somebody's even gotten up without the entirety of their limbs on the ground. Promising indeed. It's got something stuck in his mouth. He keeps making the funny face. I'm just going to guide the other vehicles into the sighting, and I'm sure you'll be back in no time.
That elephant is just the north of that elephant, about 50 meters. Okay, thank you.
Game Drive Radio is a little busy. I'm sure I'll be contacted when I'm needed. fluffy this little one is. It's almost got a miniature mane happening already, all the way down to the elbows. Oh, those eyes. This is how it starts. Some grooming, some yawning, aloe grooming, and then lots of urination and defecation. And then they're up and about. I'm sure you can hear the crinkling of the dry leaves by one lioness who's stretching out. And you'll also be able to hear the flies that are bothering us this afternoon. Oh, just when you gave us some hope, down she goes again. Hi, Jenna. You're 14 years old. You'd like to know what is the purpose of whiskers? You know how we have touch? You can feel something. You can feel that something is sharp, if something is smooth, if something is rough. Whiskers are an extension of that. So we call that touch, that sense of touch, it's tactile. And whiskers are an additional tactile sense. So as the animal moves through the grass, as it eats, its whiskers feel as well. It's like an extra sense of touch. And if you say you put a straw in a glass of water, and you move that straw just a little bit, just a tiny little bit, the water ripples, and the ripple gets larger and larger because the water is able to carry that movement. So that's kind of how a whisker works. There's a little bit of blood, a sac of blood at the end of each whisker that's embedded into the mouths of most animals. In fact, almost every animal has whiskers. In fact, you, once upon a time, or at least our ancient ancestors, had them too. So there's a little sac of blood at the bottom of the whisker. So when something very gently touches the whisker, it moves within this sac of blood, or it creates a ripple in the sac of blood, and that amplifies the whole feeling. So it's an excellent sense. And now we have macro vibraceae. Vibraceae is the technical term for a whisker, and those are the long ones that you know as whiskers. Then you get micro vibraceae as well, and those are the tiny ones around mouths of animals, and those are the ones that our ancient ancestors had as well. In fact, your upper lip, the hairs on your upper lip, is kind of a bit of that left over. You'd probably know that if you touch the hairs on your upper lip, especially if you haven't had your lip waxed in a long time, the men, they would know that you can feel very, very easily when something touches a hair on your upper lip. And we still have tiny little muscles that are left over from there. Oh, we've got some suckling going on. That's very interesting, considering that our oldest cubs here are, 8 months old? sorry, the youngest cubs here are 8 months old. So this cub has to be, if it is the youngest one, I think it is one of Chile's ones, because I remember that tail. Still getting milk from mum at 8 months. That's pretty indulgent, if you ask me. They're weaned around at 3 months old. You'll find when it comes to leopards, lions, even cheetahs, their weaning age is quite young. 6 weeks to 3 months. Kerry, exactly. You say, cubby, aren't you too big to nurse? Absolutely. This is a very indulgent cub. But, you know, mum's producing. You might as well be drinking. But then again, mum is producing because you keep on drinking. So perhaps mum needs to be a little bit stricter by doing something like that. Just moving.
Around here.
Look at these cubs. All the cubs are like, hey, hey, hey. You moved. They remind me of little kids when they're just waiting for somebody to get up. Because, you know, I remember when I was like 5 years old, I'd wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning on the weekend and expect to find a playmate. And when you see one adult move in this pride and you see all the cubs lift up their head and they start moving too, because they think, oh, am I going to get a playmate? Is something happening? Definitely some movement. Did you hear that huff as that lioness sat down? And flop. The next batch will only move when they feel like a little bit later. JK, you'd like to know why don't cats eat the stomach content of prey? Well, it's because it doesn't offer them very much. The prey that they eat are herbivores, and their stomach content is vegetation. So it means nothing to them. Secondly, the stomach content would still have gastric juices in them. So a herbivore is like a ruminant, which is generally what they go for. A ruminant's stomach still has a pouch where it's very similar to our stomach, and there is hydrochloric acid in there. but it's a weak hydrochloric acid. You're looking at a pH of between 4 and 6. Very, very weak hydrochloric acid. But it still is going to be acidic and taste acidic. So that's not going to be something that the cats want, or really any animal feels comfortable eating, except scavengers. And scavengers have a stomach acid pH very, very similar to our own. A vulture and a hyena, which are your typical scavengers, they have a pH of between 1.5 to 3. Going down, even 1.5 is very, very strong. And that is the similar pH of our own, between 2 and 3. So some theories suggest that perhaps we survived on scavenging for quite a long time before we learned how to hunt ourselves.
Welcome back to our Djuma Private Game Reserve, where we've got a wonderful Battalier eagle. Trisha's always got some really interesting discussions, hasn't she? pH of stomach acid, stomach content. I don't think I've ever discussed that before. Have you, Theo? Yeah. No. She is a wonder, isn't she? Old Trish. Well, here we've got a wonderful bird that loves to follow around predators and to feed off of their carrion. And carrion, for those of you who have never heard of the term before, is a term given to sort of dead meat. Why it's called carrion, I'm not actually sure. Maybe because it carries on from day to day. I'm joking. I don't know. But the Battalier, or short-tailed eagle, sitting here in the tree. We're not far from the nesting site where these Battaliers have been breeding for the last at least 3 years that I know of. Such a beautiful bird. Seeing one perched in a tree like this can quite often be a good indication that there is some form of meat or carcass around. But knowing that this area right here, there's often, the three of them, 3 adults and a sub-adult are always hanging around, is often right here. So it's not always exactly indicating too much. But I've found many an animal, dead animal before, with a Battalier, also known as Shumungwe in Shangaan. Battalier, always the first predatory bird or scavenging bird to find a carcass because of their ability to fly so easily and efficiently early in the morning. You can see how the wings go down and don't, and sort of cross over almost, and the tail is almost absent. Very short tail. The juveniles have got a much longer tail. You could call it training wheels. And it gives them a very difficult flight pattern, but also allows them to fly quite early when there's not too much in the way of currents or thermals. Megan, it is a great-looking bird, isn't it? That face, beautiful face. They say it takes about 7 years for these birds to reach their adult plumage. I mean, 7 years of being a Battalier before they get into breeding plumage, before they can look after chicks. I suppose that's a good time, good amount of time to mature. They are very brown in colour before, and that red face in the juveniles is almost a greenish sort of pale green colour. But breeding plumage is something in birds which obviously indicates maturity, and they won't breed until they have reached their breeding plumage. Once they've earned their stripes, successfully become an adult, learned how to survive. So we tracked SABI and cubs earlier, and probably 50 to 100 meters from where we had to leave the tracks because of the area, they have found her with her cubs on a kill. So at least we were able to give them a hand in finding her. Always do our part, don't we, Theo?
I do.
It's very disappointing though, because I knew those tracks were so fresh. We would have found her within minutes. Unfortunate as it is, we go back over to Djuma now and find ourselves our own leopard. Sarah, how high can they fly? I haven't really known. I've never seen them fly very high. They are very well known for being able to fly quite low. Most raptors require being a little bit high off the ground because of the currents that they use for flying, whereas a battalier can actually fly quite low to the ground, but they can also get a little bit of elevation. But I've never seen them go very high. They're not a soaring bird. They're not a bird that uses thermals to gain height. They generally keep relatively low, so I'd say they stay without really knowing, they stay within 100 meters off the floor. They don't go much higher than that. Maybe a little bit more, but I wouldn't say they go further than that. They don't have a very good steering or brake power, lacking a very efficient tail. They're very good at sort of wobbling and turning, but they're not very good at stopping very well. And the tail and broad wings is what allows most birds to get elevation and thermals. But the battalier's got very sharp pointed wings, which helps them to fly quickly, but doesn't aid them in picking them up. So it doesn't lift them up, it basically just pushes them through the air, like a very fast kite, not a broad sail that lifts them up in the air. They actually cut through the air quite nicely, and you see them moving quite fast at low altitudes. It enables them to cover quite a big area with a great eyesight to pick up on the smallest of animal particles or dead animals on the ground. They're also very good at catching snakes. They are actually part of the snake eagle sort of grouping, but are very well known for their diet of carrion. Okay, now I'm going to have to move. There's a car on the way up, and I've parked in the middle of the road. So we're going to carry on and go back over to Djuma and see if we can try our hand at a little bit of leopard tracking. I know that Trishala had some tracks this morning up in the north. Maybe we'll go see if we can pick up on those, see what's happened. So jump on board. I'll see you from Djuma.
Welcome back to and beyond PHINDA Private Game Reserve. We have managed to find those two lionesses we mentioned earlier. And as you can see, they are still getting their well-deserved rest. They haven't moved, according to the reports from this morning, they haven't moved too far during the day today. It's approaching about 4 days now that they haven't been with those young males of their pride. So it's more or less time that they should try to find them. They will more than likely head back to where they left those young males and see if they can find them in that area, usually through using contact calls or smelling to see if they can track them down. But that's latest worries for these lionesses. They are fast asleep. And unfortunately, you've just missed it. They were both sitting upright. But I think their tiredness got the better of them. Just a flick of the ear every now and then. I know you've been seeing lots of sleepy lions the whole afternoon. But that is what lions do.
Are there any stations right on?
Sorry about that. Breathing quite heavily. We have seen, we're not too far away from where we saw those lionesses, those vultures earlier. And it looks like the lionesses' tummies are a little bit full. Maybe they ate something last night, and that's maybe where the vultures have come from. Because as some of those vultures were flying off, we managed to see that a few of them had some food in their crops, so there were some leftovers somewhere, but we weren't able to find them. But just looking at that belly that's moving up and down, it looks like there is some food in that belly. Sure. Okay, Kevin, that's quite a tough question. I know that the Kalahari lions are very large. So the Kalahari being in the western parts of southern Africa. They have a reputation of being quite big. They have very, very dark manes, and that dark mane is directly related, according to some new studies, to the testosterone in the male lion. But an exact place of where the biggest male lions come from, I don't actually know. So I'd have to look that up and try and maybe answer it on another show, because I don't know offhand. But I do know that the Kalahari lions are some of the biggest lions that you get. And I've seen numerous photographs. I've never been myself to East Africa, but it definitely looks like some of those East African lions, like Scarface. Those look like extremely big lions. But to give you a definite answer, I wouldn't be able to do that, unfortunately. But I'll look it up and I'll answer on another show. Just in terms of general lion statistics, if you didn't know, the big male lions usually around 250. Well, that's a very big male lion, but between 200 and pushing 250 kilograms is a big male lion, and then the lionesses between 140 180 kilograms is normal adult lion size statistics. So earlier, while we were on our way to these lions, when we were with the rhinos, we managed to, while we were sitting there, we not only had the impalas alarming, but then as soon as we left to try and find these lionesses, we actually heard monkeys alarm calling. And once again, that was in the exact same area, and once again we investigated. But whatever it was evaded us. So that's what's been keeping us busy. But I think what we will do is leave these lions to rest. Not too far from here, we did see a herd of buffaloes. So I think we'll go and have a look and see what they're up to.
Thanks, Grant. Well, we found ourselves a dead leadwood tree with a couple of very cool little squirrels. There we go, he's come out. Oh, it's gone back in again. Now, these leadwood trees can stand for over 100 years or so. All the giant grandfathers of the landscape. And if there are cavities in a tree like this, you can imagine how many squirrel populations or generations can be perpetuated in here. Imagine the insects. And definitely a very cool double-story building with a view. Now, those of you who were watching a year and a half ago, or however long ago it was, and I had that very cool honey badger sighting with the monitor lizard, I drove up the road here and actually saw a honey badger attached to this tree. It obviously had its nose in one of the holes, was looking for something, and I thought initially it was a monitor lizard. And then it jumped off, and a honey badger. And then that began a very interesting tale of honey badger that hunted a monitor lizard. If you haven't seen that footage, it is really quite remarkable. Oh, hello. There's another one. Really, really quite remarkable how that honey badger chased a monitor lizard up a tree into a buffalo thorn. The monitor lizard thought it was safe. Honey badger figured it out and then eventually caught it. Very smart little mammals. Had a recent little run-in with the honey badger. I will be sharing a video soon. Not here, on my little leave. Rather humorous. But these little squirrels are very, very cool. They're enjoying last bits of afternoon sunshine. Probably a little bit of grooming. Jenna, aren't they? They're very cute. They're very cute. They're very busy. They're very busy little creatures. Their claws are quite sharp, but they are very cute. Quite camouflaged there against that dead log. Almost can't see him or her. Very nice toes. Holding on. Can't see me. Okay, so everybody, we are back on Djuma now. We're going to be moving through this eastern section, an area that Thandi has been moving through. See if we're going to be able to find any tracks. Trish did have some tracks of a leopard up towards the north, around Quarry Pan Road, so we'll slowly make our way there, checking along the way. Bear in mind it's getting to that time of day when these cats could be moving as well. So, you never know, we might be lucky.
You do never know, but I have to get on the game drive radio. Please excuse me. Standing by.
Trish, Rosengala is still Rebecca's Road.
Affirm.
Okay, slowly sort of make our way towards that area. Just scanning for any inquiries as we're coming in.
No worries. When you get here, you can make your way straight in, because I'll move out. There'll be 3 vehicles here.
Copy that. Thanks, Trish.
So this is the time, like Steve was saying, you never know what's going to happen. And it is the time when everybody descends upon lion sightings. But I think we've had a good time. We managed to spend a lot of time with them this afternoon. And that is always, always special. Even so, they're moving so little, I think by the end of the show they wouldn't have moved very much at all. It's quite quite a thick area, so I may need to guide some people through, but I'll let you know. The air has the most beautiful smell at the moment because it's warm. Dina, you'd like to know if cubs are born with claws? They are. Just like human babies are born with nails, they are born with claws. Now, if you can put both your hands on top of each other, like you're making a little fish, those are the two layers of a nail. And I might have to do this demonstration, otherwise it becomes too strange. And then I can only imagine what you guys would be doing with your hands. So imagine there's two layers to a nail, right? Like this. So you and I, our nails grow together like that. For a claw, this top layer grows faster than this bottom layer. So that starts to happen. And then you end up with a claw. It seems so simple, right? Especially with a demonstration, it makes total sense, because if something grows longer, then it's going to curve because it's still attached to the shorter side and the underside. So it makes so much sense. But no one's ever explained that to me until only a couple months ago when I read it, when I was looking at nails and claws. And yes, they're certainly born with them. If you're at the junction of Zoe's and Rebecca's, you want to turn down Rebecca's and keep on going until you see my vehicle tracks. My vehicle tracks will be turning left off Rebecca's road if you're coming from the junction with Zoe's. There's a bit of a pedicure going on there. I was saying to you that the air is really, really nice. The air to me feels a little bit tropical. It feels warm and soft and a little humid and a little fragrant. Just a touch of fragrance. Nothing too crazy. No jasmine type fragrances hitting my nostrils. And no smell of lion either. So this is all very good. But there's something very summery about this air, and I really like it. I might even say I love it. It feels very Africa to me. Well, I'm going to go guide the other vehicles into the sighting, because at that time it'll be 3 vehicles, and I'll have to make my way out because I would be the fourth one that has been sitting with them the whole day. So why do you say, let's go and look for Shadulu? I think that'll be excellent. So I'm going to guide the others in and then go off looking for a leopard.
Wild Earth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the Wild Earth family.
Goodness gracious, you've got a lot of cats to choose from. We, however, have resorted to looking at tracks of buffalo. Now, these are very, very fresh tracks. You can see how the sand is still completely flat, and there is a little bit of a gentle breeze, but this the substrate here is quite fine. So no squirrel tracks, no lizard tracks scuttering straight across it. I wonder where the buffalo are. Sebastian, have you seen them?
But that looks very fresh.
Very fresh. They must be here somewhere. Where are they? Oh, will you look at that? Now, there's something very interesting that I want to show you, but it's on the scrotum of a buffalo. Right. Are you ready? What is that? What is happening there?
It's a wound.
It's a wound of some sort. I thought it was going to be a tick, but you can see all the ticks. Apologies, everybody, for this. But that is unfortunately for the buffalo where the ticks like to gather. And then it obviously just got some kind of a growth growing off of that. I thought it was actually a huge tick that was engorged with blood, but that does not seem to be the case. Probably not doing this buffalo any harm. Who knows? Hello, boys. Definitely been scratching the bosses up on the trees. You can still see some bark on some of them, some of the cambium layer, probably from a bush willow or a marula, something with a red cambium, maybe even a tambuati. That one has got green coloration. And look at them. That one is just trying to be a little bit loving, and the other one's like, nah, I want to box. I want to butt heads with you, buddy. But it's always funny to watch the bachelors enjoy themselves. It doesn't look like a breeding herd. It just looks like maybe 7 or 8. I actually haven't counted properly. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7 buffalo. So the 7, we joked, remember we called them the 7 dwarfs. They're not, of course, dwarf-like at all. You're enormous, aren't you? Yes. You're very nice. I love the way that they do that with their nose. And look how shiny and wet it is. Good indication that this buffalo is very healthy. They haven't actually lost any condition at all this winter, which is fantastic, because it's, my years in the greater Kruger area have always been filled of very, very sad images of buffalo, literally knocking on death's door. So it is really nice in dry season for a change to see them so fit and healthy and cheeky. Hey, boy? I also love that the wrinkles that they get on their eyes, and they start to get worse and worse as they get older, to the point where they almost can't see out of them. I'm sure there's a buffalo in here that we can show you at some point he's got his eyes almost quite closed, but look at all the little bugs that are also flying around, shame. Always hanging around the nose, always hanging in the corner of the eyes. I see, yeah, I suppose buffalo are quite expressive, hey? When you watch them. They're not perturbed by us, which I absolutely love. I've really been enjoying the buffalo sightings as of late, and you won't hear me say that every now and then. Look at the buffaloes. Like, I just want to groom you. You've got something in your hair. That's basically the version of every mother licking their fingers and flattening that piece of hair that, just before a photograph, that's perhaps not staying where it should. I don't think my mother's ever done that. She just used to pull the little pieces that didn't belong out. But I did have one of my mom's friends who was a teacher do that to me once, and I almost had a heart attack. I think I've told that story a few times as well. My boy, where are you going? They're probably going to come round camp a little bit later. It doesn't look like they've been down to the water today, and I'm sure they will, because it's been exceptionally hot. Where are you off to? He's going behind the bushes. You can clearly see how they haven't lost any condition at all. Look at those big round bellies. Fat necks. They really are just pure muscle, aren't they? Off they go again. I like how they've all got to come past and butt heads. Hello, yes, that's good. Nice to see you again. Long time. Jamie, very heavy. The buffaloes, I've never picked up their horns while the buffalo's still been alive, but I can imagine with an entire head, with all the flesh and muscle on, I think I would struggle to pick it up. But whenever I've picked up a buffalo skull, if the lions have, being one of their favorite things to eat, if they've made a kill and the skull is left on over. I remember I found an enormous one once. It was the width of the hood of the Land Rovers that we drive. I'm sure there will be some people that can share some screenshots. I think we eventually tied it to the car and took it back to camp. It might even be at the DRC. We took it to the tent. And that must have weighed... Seb, I think you were on walk with me when we found that one. The huge one. Yeah, remember, we went and got a vehicle, or we fetched it the next day, but we had it on bushwalk. And I think that must have...
As big as the bonnet of the car.
It was huge. I mean, how much do you think that must have weighed? 20 kilograms? Maybe more? I mean, that also, again, you've got to take into consideration. 15, 20 kilos? It's heavy, hey? There's a lot of skull there. The boss is, and the horns are quite heavy as well. So I'm going to go with something like that. And I reckon, like I said, with all the muscle and flesh on, it's probably a lot more than that. Buffalo, you squint. Where are you looking? I feel like one... Hello? We're over here. No, I'm joking. Shame Buffalo. It's okay. He's good. He can stand in front and he can see what's going on either side of him. But no lions here. Buffalo, you are safe for the moment. They all seem to be just north of us. They tease us every night, and I get so excited. Last night I actually sent a voice note saying that I'm very excited. The buffalo are all around camp. The lions are roaring. I heard a lion contact calling not too far away, and I thought, yep, tomorrow we're going to wake up, obviously, and hopefully find lions chomping on some beef. But that was not the case.
Welcome back to Djuma, everybody, and it is that time of day, that moment for you to just park off, just take a chill, and just enjoy the sunset. Well, the remote does look like it's swallowed the sun, the tree. Very cool. I hope you all enjoyed that little moment or two. Little moment or two of silence and beauty. I know in Zimbabwe they talk about sorry, I missed the beginning of Gemma's comment there. Nothing like an African sunset, I think you said. But up in Zimbabwe, they always used to talk about solar eclipses as being the crocodile swallowing the sun. That was what the locals used to believe when they suddenly see the sun disappear. It's quite a frightening thing. You see the sun, a crocodile, and they kind of look like that in a way, except it was a tree and an horizon. But you know what I mean. Very good, everybody. Well, it is now that time of day for some nocturnals to be moving around. So we're going to carry on up this road on the eastern side of Djuma, and we might be lucky. And we'll just leave you with one more moment of the beautiful sky.
Welcome back to And Beyond PHINDA, everyone. These are two lionesses that are usually quite active at this time of the day or going into the night. But for now, they're doing the opposite. The only change is that lioness at the back, whose belly you can just see there, her breathing has slowed down significantly, so she's definitely cooling down as the sun has set. But there are still no real signs of life of these lionesses. They are quite content with their resting. We've got a little bit of a breeze blowing. It was very hot today, but myself and Craig have both got jackets on now, so it's starting to cool down quite a bit. And I do suspect that these lionesses will get active tonight, but who knows when that will be. Every now and then, with the wind blowing, something will rustle in a bush, or the grass will make a sound that sounds like something approaching, and then one of the lionesses will sit up and look around. But for the most part, they're just resting. I'm not too sure how clearly it's coming out on the camera, but if you look at the lioness at the back, or on our right hand side, you look at her legs and her belly, she's got some prominent spots that you can still see. And if any of you are watching with those young male lions, you would have seen, oh, look at that, a stretch. If any of you are watching with the young males, you would have seen, or I'm sure with some of the other prides that have been seen today, you might have seen how spotty the youngsters are, and perhaps some of the lionesses as well. There's a second stretch in a short time. And so we had a comment from Hazonsky or Hadonki. I'm not sure what the name was, but yeah, the lions have definitely been eating well, being displayed right now. She's just rolling over, showing how content she is. She's not going to be moving anywhere soon. We weren't able to find whatever they might have eaten, so I'm assuming it was quite small. These lionesses from this pride, more especially, are very, very good at hunting warthogs. They catch a number of warthogs, and they almost are specialists in catching warthogs. So something like that would go quite quickly between even just the two of them. But yeah, I think this evening it might be quite a late start for these lionesses. They, as some of you may know, they have quite a long process of getting up and waking up, and they haven't even initiated that process yet. For now, they're just conserving their energy and getting as much rest as possible. Who knows? Maybe they've got a big night plan tonight. There was I didn't quite hear the full question from Sassy Cassie. It was something about the lion's tummy. Thank you very much. So the once a lioness has a full tummy, and that is quite something. You can really see when their tummy is full by the way that it bulges. And a lioness can in her tummy, when it's full, she can have about between 20 and 25 kilograms of food, and that can take a number of days to digest. So what we typically see is that they will have a meal, and if they're lucky enough to completely fill their tummy, they will usually take between 2 and 3 days before they actually really try to put all their effort into hunting. They might take the odd opportunity to try and hunt, but it usually takes about 2 days for when they've got a full belly to be completely digested. I was actually just saying to Craig when we first arrived here, it's not a great place that they've chosen to rest. I mean, there's one small, scrawny little bush that they were lying under, and today, as I mentioned earlier, it was really, really hot. So it's actually the grass that they relied on for a bit of shade, and they would have just moved around as the sun moved. They would have followed the shade of that bush and tried to keep as cool as possible. Holistic lions have been known for their sleeping for forever. They are very, very deep sleepers. So lions have been known to sleep for between 18 and 21 hours of the 24 hours a day. So you can imagine, when you do find lions, the chances of them being active are very, very low. They can spend up to about 21 hours of a day, even 22 hours if they've got a very full belly. They can literally sleep the entire day. So if there's nothing that prompts them to move, if they have a full belly, if they've had a drink of water, if they've got shade when it's hot, or if they've got a bit of sun when it's really cold, then there is no reason for them to move, and they will do their best to conserve as much energy as possible. They never know when they might need it, and so that is exactly what these lionesses are doing right now, and I have had no indication of them showing any signs that they might move. So I think we are going to leave these lions where they are and potentially come back and have a look for them in the morning.
Well, we left the Seven Dwarfs to find the rest of the buffalo herd, but unfortunately we must have just missed them drinking at in Ndlovu Dam at the Eco Training Camp. We were actually not anywhere near here. We moved quite far away from the dam. But there they all are, being sneaky I'm so sad because it would have been so nice to see them with all the dust, especially in the late afternoon, the golden light. But there they go. What's wrong with that buffalo on the left? Oh, it's probably mud, hey? Oh, I got a fright. I was like, goodness, what's happened to her? But probably just smeared up against another buffalo and she got a patch of mud on her now. But there were some bulls that were being quite frisky with one another. Looking back at us, probably looking into the camp. There's some guys chopping wood, getting ready to make a little fire for the evening. Ah, that's one of the most amazing things here, is how's that? To be able to stand at the watering hole, view the buffalo or elephants or lioness and leopards that often come down here, and then to be able to go and sit around the fire just a few meters away. Right now, that buffalo is also having a good old scratch, which is... I can't imagine how amazing that must feel for that animal. Look at her, a bit of a skip in her step now. That was the best scratch I've ever had. But that thick skin, it must really take some serious rubbing to make it feel good. I know what I mean, you all know what it feels like if you've got a itchy back or something like that and you can't reach it. We're quite kindly, we can just ask, if you've got a good enough friend to scratch your back. And these poor animals, they have to find a tree and then to try and find the right height or the right branch to gathered between the buffalo bull's legs. Can you imagine how they're wedged in between the folds of skin? That must be frustrating. My skin kind of crawls just thinking about all those parasites. It makes my hair itchy. Although if a tick gets in my hair, there's no finding it. It'll be lost forever. But no hurry to move away from the water. I'm glad that they've gone to the west and not come right past my tent again, because the amount of flies that normally left behind when the buffalo move through is very unpleasant, and then they somehow get into my tent, and at night it's not fun. Not at all. But it's lovely. Ooh. There's some buffalo just bumping heads every now and then. I suppose they're also just like people, hey? Sometimes they're fine, then they're having a bit of a bad day with one other member, and they have a bit of a box, and, sort it out, and then they go back to normal. One big happy family. Oh, that's nice to see. Unfortunately, it's going to be very difficult for us to go all the way around. There's no sort of shortcut across the dam to get a better view. And with light fading, this is going to be the end of our buffalo sighting. And also camp might become a bit noisy now as everyone starts to come back from safari. I'm not even sure if we're live. I don't know, my call just dropped as well. My call dropped. I don't know. There we go, sorry, I don't know what's happening. Hello? Oh, hello everybody. Sorry, classic. Very unusual for a call to drop like that, or for me to have audio breakup. I would say let's listen to the sounds, but I don't think that that's going to work because we will just hear chopping in the background. Miguel, I suppose a buffalo could give birth to twins, but it's not that common. I definitely think that it happens. I haven't seen it before, but it's not to say that it hasn't happened. I'm sure there'll be some recording of twins. So yeah, it would be, sure, hard work for the mom. I mean, it's already really tough for them, especially the buffalo and the mara, I think, have it the worst because of the amount of hyenas that are around and lions. And those hyenas, oh my goodness, like they're amazing at what they do. But they really go after the young calves. It makes it quite difficult. And then, of course, when a buffalo cow is off and she's just given birth and she's not quite with the herd, and the Pride of Lions figures this out. It must be so, I don't even know what word to use to describe it. Can you imagine going through that, just giving birth, all that stress? You must be exhausted, and now you've got to try and fight off lions or hyenas to protect your young one. It's quite something, hey? That's why it's so important that they do stick together like this, because a wall of buffalo, there's not much that can stop them. If they decide that they don't want the lions to be around anymore and they all stand together, then it's quite spectacular to see that when the tables are turned.
As you can imagine, I haven't had much luck with Shadudu. She was a little late today. I waited in a spot where she usually comes out, and she was late. So now I am stopping by at none other than our chameleon-y friend, Fernando, or as Steve likes to call him, short and sweet Ferdinand. He doesn't like the Mediterranean influence on the name Fernando. So, up in the tree today, are we? Let's just keep that stable right there so we're not flashing it in his eyes. Hello, gorgeous. It's a really, really, really warm night, and I'd be very sure that there are many chameleons out. They don't estivate quite, as Fernando has taught us, but they may have periods of rest when it is too cold. And this kind of warmth tonight will definitely bring them out. Doesn't he look cozy in there? You look very, very cozy. BK, I have a feat for you. Do you think you can do it? I'm going to suggest it to you. It looks like this leadwood is pointing at the moon.
It's right above there.
Okay. It's right above us, so we can't show you. But it looked as if this giant leadwood that's behind Fernando was actually pointing up at the moon. There's now even the citrusy smell in the air. It looks like Fernando has now hidden his face. Oh, not quite. Eyeing us out. And back again. The flaps on his head or neck, the name flap-necked chameleon might suggest to you that there are flaps. Inga, you'd like to know if he or she is melting? No, molting. There you go. Well done, Shashala. It's definitely not melting. And he's not molting. I can see what you see. There on his flaps, he's got white marks. But for as long as I've seen him, which has been months now, he's had those whitish bits on his flaps. In fact, that's what I was just going to talk to you about, which is why I mentioned those flaps, are those white markings. When they are shedding their skin, it kind of looks like they've been walking around in a puddle with toilet paper in it. So like toilet paper's caught on them. And it never looks that neat. And like I said, I've seen it on him for as long as I've known him. It's been months now. Perhaps it's the beginnings of a good shedding.
Dalvika.
Hang on, let's...
It will go?
Gun that down. I wonder if I could find another, considering the warmth. Certainly not too close by. Well, he'll be tucking in for the night. They're diurnal. So I think we should leave him be. Especially since I don't like shining the spotlight at them, which is why I shine it there. Never mind, I'm staying with Fernando. The light has dropped substantially since we've been here. Shame. Poor thing is wondering, who are we? Actually, he's not. He's just wondering who BK is, because of course he knows who I am. I'm his mother, right? Why not? I mean, I do love him. Definitely doesn't react to me like I'm any sort of parent to him. But I do really, really adore these guys. Just lovely. Well, you know, it's that time of day. Carrie, I'll let him know. Fernando, Carrie says, good night, Fernando. And good night to you all, or good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are from and wherever you are in the world. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you for your questions and your comments. It is that time of the evening. We'll see you in the morning for Sunrise Drive. Bye-bye for now.
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning and welcome to the dawn. We're coming to you live from Djuma Private Game Reserve in the SABI Sands. My name is Steve and welcome on board your live African safari.